Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie and you are watching Reliable Roots. And today's video is all about the Oak Meadow 3rd grade curriculum. So we have been using this past homeschool year. I bought this when they had their curriculum sale, I want to say back in May of last year, and it's the only time that I've ever bought brand new curriculum because their curriculum went on sale. If you can get the sale price, I actually found it to be cheaper than the items that were being sold as used off of Facebook and off of eBay. So I hopped all on that. So this is the first time I ever actually bought it straight from the bookstore. But I wanted to walk you guys through it in case you're interested in purchasing this curriculum. We've been doing it now. We've almost done the entire thing. We've got 6 more weeks to go. And we do kind of year-round homeschooling, and that makes it a lot easier for me because that gives me breaks in between to plan and organize and that sort of stuff. So we took last week off. We were planning on getting started this week. That's not enough time for me, so I'm going to take another week off, and then we'll do the last 6 weeks of our homeschool year. Anyway, getting right into this, here is the course book. This is the main thing. So for those who don't know, Oak Meadow is a Waldorf-based kind of curriculum. We've been using this for a few years now. I used to use Earth Schooling. I'm still going to go back to Earth Schooling. I'm actually planning out with our next unit study that I'm going to be dipping into some of Earth Schooling's smaller resources, especially with their herbology. So sorry, my kids are sharpening their pencils in the background. Anyway, so I still love Earth Schooling. The reason why we use Oak Meadow right now for their main curriculum, because I get asked this a lot, Earth Schooling is great and wonderful. Oak Meadow, the main thing that I enjoy about it, it's Waldorf-based. It's a nice go-between. If you are new to the Waldorf philosophy and you want to dive into the Waldorf philosophy, but you grew up in public school like I did, or you're just not sure where to start, this is a great go-between. So it breaks it down into 36 lessons, which is another great thing for, I'm a working mom as well, so I like checklists. I thrive off of checklists, and I really enjoy how this is based on a typical school year. Now, that being said, that has its drawbacks as well, but there are 36 lessons, 36 weeks of learning, and you can see each lesson has so much in it. We never do an entire lesson, complete honesty. Now we do supplement with other things, like we'll do unit studies. We just got back into doing unit studies with Little House on the Prairie, and you can see that video linked right there. But we enjoy doing the unit studies because that gives my daughters a little bit of a break from the typical sort of lessons. It gives them a little change from the monotony, and that is one thing that they have not enjoyed, is that, and that's not necessarily Oak Meadow's curriculum, that's just our homeschool. That's something I'm always trying to work towards, is making homeschool more fun and engaging for them. But anyway, so each lesson, you can see they have language arts, social studies, math, science, arts and crafts, music, health, and they have, oh, that's the end of the year assessment. That's something else. But they do have learning assessments, and I'll show you all of that in the middle in a minute. But they have all of these different things for every single lesson. I love how there is places on the actual curriculum itself. If you ever needed to jot down notes, every single page is like that. Pretty much every single page has these little places for you to write any kind of notes. Every single lesson has these all laid out for you. I love checklists. I'm a huge checklist fan. So they have all the materials that are laid out for you, and you know, if you plan ahead, if you're good like that and you plan ahead, that is really, really beneficial. Every single week they have this beautiful little planner. So I have a different planner that I use, and I plan on selling all my curriculum once we're completely done. So I try not to ever write in the curriculum, even though it gets pretty damaged, because, you know, even this was brand new when I bought it. You can see we've used it quite a bit. So yeah, each week they have a planner. You can, you know, make a copy of this, or you can write it directly in the curriculum if that's what you do. And then they also have, on top of that planner, they also have this planner as well. So they have the nice checklist. I love checklists, even though, to be honest, I really don't use this as much as I thought I would. And again, that's kind of why I'm debating about in the future going back to Earth Schooling, and that's always kind of what I do. I go back and forth, but they still have notes and materials that are still needed. So let's go back to the very beginning. This also goes along with Oak Meadow offers some sort of, and forgive me, I really don't know that much about this because I I don't subscribe to it, but you do have the ability to, let me go over here, to actually enroll your child. And so each week has, for enrolled students, you actually send in your work, in your progress, and a sample of your work. And like, I don't know if it's each week or if it's at the end of like every few weeks. I guess at the end of lesson 4. So like once a month you send in all this stuff, your weekly planner and stuff like that. And so you can actually like enroll your children. And I don't know that much about that because we don't subscribe to that, but maybe that's beneficial for some other states that that need their children enrolled or something to that effect. But anyway, they do have that option as well. At the end of each lesson, they also have a learning assessment. Again, more checklist. I love checklists. So here's the learning assessment. They have language arts and literature. Let's see what you're reading, if it's read aloud, if it's, you check the block notes, writing sentences and paragraphs. Over here, you have social studies, math, science, and arts and crafts, and music and health. So all of that being said, let me see what else I can tell you about this. So yeah, 36 weeks, 180 days essentially, and this goes along with the enrichment package. Now, I did not buy the enrichment package with the 3rd grade because I already had the enrichment package. So let me just do a little side note of the enrichment package, because a lot of all of Oak Meadows kindergarten through 3rd grade will refer to this. This is the enrichment package. And so you only have to buy this once. You don't have to buy this with each grade. But these, this is crafts for the early grade. So like whenever they show crafts in the course book, they will say, go do this crafts. Or go do these crafts for the week. I love this. We don't do it enough, but I really love the illustrations in here. It gives you a great idea of, what you're supposed to be doing. They're really beautifully drawn. I really enjoy that. So this is the crafts book. This I use all the time each week for our circle time, because this has tons and tons of songs, verses, finger plays, illustrations to go along with them. They also have poems. I've tried my best to get into poetry. My children are not into it. I'm not into it. We're still trying to do the poetry thing, but I've never been a fan of poems, so I think we just might bypass that part of childhood. But they do have poems, lots and lots of poems. And then at the end of here, you actually have poems and verses specifically for 3rd grade as well. So this goes along with the course book, and let's see, and then here's the list of the appendix and all the poems and that sort of thing. I want to say that there was more to that. At the beginning of this, there was also, oh yeah, here we go. There's some guidelines. There's the art of storytelling. That is a Waldorf thing, is that typically there's a whole art of actually telling the stories. I'm terrible at it. I never took the time to actually, do this right. But typically what you do is you read the story ahead of time and then you tell it back to the children. I never have time for that. I think I tried when they were in preschool or kindergarten, and it never worked out so much for me. So I just read directly from the stories. And, I know that it'd be better if I actually just told them the stories. It'd be a little bit better, but that's just how our homeschool works. So they have the art of storytelling at the beginning of this. They have art instruction, which is really cool, because when you're working with block crayons, if you're anything like me, I had no idea how to work with block crayons. So this gives you some instruction on how you're really supposed to fill in the color. Like this is, you start with the earth and then you do the root, and this goes with the story, because first you have the ground and then comes the roots and then comes the trunk and the tree, versus just making an outline of a shape. Now my kids still do the outline of the shape. I've tried to teach them this method. They still prefer that. That's just how they're doing, and I'm not going to argue with that. That's their art. They also go over form drawing in this book as well, wet paper painting, and then they also have a whole section on knitting and crocheting and handwork as well. So there's the crocheting, how you should position that. Oh, and then they also have music instruction as well. And so, and then they get into tongue twisters and letter runs. So again, this is the enrichment package. So that's Guide to Teach in the Early Grades. I use that quite a bit. Healthy Living from the Start. Hardly ever use this. It's always on my list to use hardly ever use it. It's fantastic for normal sort of things that just sometimes you forget to tell your kids about, or you just kind of assume that they pick up on. At least that's my case. We talk about food all the time whenever we eat dinner, but I never sit down and have the conversation about food pyramids or meal planning or that sort of stuff. So the reason why we don't use it, I mean, I'm kind of counting on just life experience on them learning a lot of this stuff, personal safety, sharing personal information. We already kind of talk about that a lot, but this is a really great reminder to actually make that part of your homeschool, so because maybe they don't pick up on it as much as I think that they are. So it's a great book for that. So you have anger management, mentors and elders, communication skills, social skills, respect, and good sportsmanship. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Unfortunately, this is always like the very last thing of the week, so we don't usually have enough time for everything, and that's usually what never gets done. So that was the enrichment package. If you have already bought that in another grade, or if you're buying this for the first time, you want to get the enrichment package because, let me go back here before I show you the resource book, because so many of the lessons will refer back to them. So, let's see. So like under the health, it's lesson 8 in healthy living from the start. And then at the beginning of each, we have folk tales, but okay, prove me wrong here, but there is a lot of reference to those books as well. And let me see if I can prove that I just said that. Healthy living from the start, clay projects, that's also in the art book as well. So, I mean, you don't have to have it, but I imagine that if you're using this curriculum and you don't have the enrichment package, that would get kind of frustrating when you see time and time again, oh, sing this verse or say this finger play or do this craft, and you don't have that resource. So moving on, this is the resource book that goes along with the course book. So these two go hand in hand. You have to have both of these because these are all the stories. So as you're going throughout the school year, it's a little bit less so with the 3rd grade, but you have all these stories. And oh, this was wonderful. My daughter flew through this. The high utility 500. These are 500 of the most common English words. So we started doing kind of like spelling tests, and she just flew through these. She really enjoyed these. We did like 20 or 25 a day, and yeah, she enjoyed these. So you can see I have everything bookmarked and stuff. At the beginning of this book, they have a lot of information for the parents, how to begin, nurturing imagination, and then we get right into language arts. So there's a lot of stuff here. And there's also another book I forgot to mention. Let me get that off the shelf here. This book also comes with the enrichment package, and I think they've redone all the covers since when I bought it, but this is The Heart of Learning. I try to read this once a year because has so many good reminders of how to teach your children, how to enjoy the phases that they are in, how to appreciate their own development, and really that's so key to when you're training them up, when you're teaching them. And it's something that I always need a reminder of because I will often get into mom competitive mode, or I'll feel like they're not doing enough, and this is always a great reminder of, especially in the elementary years, because my goal with elementary years is to cultivate a love of learning, and that is still my goal, and I'm hoping that is what they take away from their elementary years. Anyway, so this gives you a lot of information on cursive writing. This year they are getting into cursive writing, grammar, and spelling. And the grammar, using verbs and nouns and adjectives and all that sort of stuff. And then social studies and math and music. And I'll also pull out the music book that we should have done with the 3rd grade, but we didn't. All right, so moving on. So here's all the stories. You have social studies stories, a lot of social studies stories. So 3rd grade, and I saw this on an Oak Meadow site on Facebook, so it's important to know. So 3rd grade's history talks a lot about different cultures, the beginning of the earth from different perspectives of culture. So There are a lot of Bible stories in here, but this is not a biblical curriculum. Okay, so they put that in the same context with some of like the ancient Egypt's creation stories, and as well as their cultures back in those days, and then they kind of lead that into how they operated on a regular basis. So it kind of all ties in together. So you're learning about the different cultures. You're learning about what they taught as far as creation or the formation of earth, of their different gods and goddesses and that sort of stuff. But there is a lot of Bible curriculum, the Tower of Babel as well. I wouldn't say Bible curriculum. Let me take that back. There is a lot of Bible stories, and I did see someone saying, "Is this a like a Christian or a biblical or a religious curriculum?" And it is not. But they are covering different cultures and how they believe that the earth began. So that's all the stories of social studies. Next are the math worksheets. We did this for a few weeks, and my daughter was not into it. So they are all practice sets. They even said that somewhere when I was reading, is that, you know, some kids thrive on them, some kids don't. But there's a lot of practice sets of different things that you're learning. Is there 37? Then there's end of the year reviews and that sort of stuff. So I don't know if we're going to do the end of the year review. I'd be curious to see where my daughter stands at with that, but I really don't like to do testing in the elementary school ages at all. My daughter wants to do testing, and she says that all the time, but she only wants to do it if she can make an A on it. You know, if she knows all the answers, she loves it. So I don't know if we're going to be doing that, because I really don't. I don't enjoy that. I don't believe in doing that with such young children. When I'm homeschooled. That's just my personal philosophy. That's what we go for. Okay, so next is folk tales. I'm hoping to get through this year. I think we're over halfway done, if I remember right. I think we're all the way over here. So this was great. Again, I read all of this aloud. I did not read it and recite it as normal Waldorf philosophy states. This is just, oh, I didn't show you the resource book, by the way, is about that thick. There you go. What is that? That's 165 pages. That's the resource book. The folk tales. So these are read aloud. Well, for us, it's read aloud. Typically, you're supposed to read these and then recite them, but these are 259 pages. Lots of folk tales. Now, these, in the 3rd grade, I read these to all 3 of my children, which was fine. I don't recall them like being more graphic or detailed than the other stories that I've read to them in kindergarten, 1st grade, or anything like that. I did find that some of these are really long. So like one story I remember took us, I think, over a week to tell, because it was a really, really long story. But that's folk tales. Hopefully we'll finish that this year. Okay, so moving along, the next thing is the My First Cookbook. They changed the face on this yet again. Like, I thought that they just changed that, and I looked on their website, so it looks different yet again. My daughter went through and marked a whole bunch of things. This is very, very simplistic, so I don't think that we did any of these. There's level 1 and level 2 using a knife. She's already been cooking for a really long time, and that's why, I mean, I had her mark whatever she wanted to make. I don't know if she actually made them, but she's very independent in the kitchen. She uses knives, she uses the stove, she uses the oven. She makes breakfast pretty much almost every day. So, you know, we didn't really use that much, but I think that she enjoyed looking at the different recipes, but we have so many cookbooks everywhere. Okay, so the last few things that I wanted to show you were the independent reading books. I'm not sure if these are like have to be independently read or they can be read alouds, but this is what my daughter independently read. So Wizard of Oz, I think she enjoyed that. Charlotte Webb, I can't remember. She read all of these at the very beginning. Now these are different from what they offer now. I saw some books on their website that were not in this. Winnie the Pooh classic. Pippi Longstocking, but I think they switched out some of these books for the independent reading. So those were all done at the beginning of the year, and yeah, classics. Next, the last two things that, last three, and the Velveteen Rabbit. Sorry, that one was hiding, the Velveteen Rabbit. So last 3 things that I have to show you. Woodworking for kids. So at this age, they're getting into woodworking, and this is part of their assignment. We just started doing that in the springtime because it's in the later part of the curriculum that you start woodworking. So they included this all new woodworking for kids. This is okay. Not crazy about it, you know, but if you are not into woodworking and you just want to do a few simple projects with your child, I imagine that this would be a good thing. We didn't do anything per se from the book of this. We got some ideas from it, but my husband does do woodworking, and so they kind of went into the shop and just made their own creation. So we didn't really do much of anything out of that. But if you don't know how to woodwork, that's a pretty good book. It's not bad. I'm not crazy about it. I'm just not crazy about it because the ideas I would have liked some kind of different ideas for this book. And I saw some other woodworking books online that I contemplated getting, but then because my husband does woodworking, I'm like, well, they can just come up with that on their own. I don't think they need a book for that. And finally, this is handwriting, cursive handwriting book. So we did not write in this because I have multiple children and I hope to use this in the future. So I made copies of all the pages and then we created our own book with this. But this is getting into cursive writing. And so she did this predominantly in the fall time at the beginning of the year. You can see that, we bent some of the pages. But it does have these hard kind of tear out things in the middle to really show you how to write in cursive, and a lot of practice in here. Okay, so the last thing that I'll show you is the advanced recorder book. We did not do this at all. We're still trying to work through the beginning of the intermediate recorder book from 2nd grade because we actually did not buy that book. My daughter got tired of doing the recorder. We switched over to the piano. Now we have the ukulele, so I don't know if we're ever going to get around to this book, but I did want to show you some of this is the advanced recorder. And for 4th grade, I went ahead and ordered the 4th grade curriculum because I found a sale on it on eBay, and I think, yeah, it's included. The 4th grade has recorder duets. So eventually I would love for us to get to this book, but I don't know if it's going to be until maybe, I don't know, 5th grade or something like that. But it does have fingering charts, and the notes get a little bit smaller. Yeah, so that's the advanced recorder book. So if you've been going along with Oak Meadow, you start recorder, I think, in the 1st grade, and then it's intermediate in the 2nd grade, and that was the one I did not get the intermediate because, again, I buy all my curriculum pretty much secondhand, and so then I got the advanced recorder for the 3rd grade, and we never had the intermediate. So now we have the intermediate recorder, and we're trying to slowly work through that, but my daughter would prefer piano. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know what you have done, if you've done this curriculum, if you enjoyed it, if you're planning on doing it next year. I know I'm already planning out my next year stuff kind of slowly and piecing it together. Now is really the best time to get curriculum, if you don't know that already. I think it seems like as soon as parents are done with their curriculum, you can get them on sale around this time, secondhand. And see you guys next time. Bye!